Now, some of you might be asking, didn't the season come out in 2014? The way I see it is, even though the second season already aired a while back, I'm only reviewing the first season because that's all that's available on Netflix, and by the time the second season comes out, the third season will still be forthcoming since it won't come out, presumably, until sometime in 2016. Then I can watch the 2016 season and be able to review that right afterwards. This seemed like a most efficient way to catch up. The 100 was developed by Jason Rothenberg and is based on a trilogy of novels written by Cass Morgan. It's a science fiction, adventure, thriller, post-apocalyptic series. Since it's based on a book and it's airing on the CW, you bet your bottom dollar that Alloy Entertainment, aka Leslie Morgenstein, is going to be executive producer company on this. The series takes place 97 years after a devastating nuclear war. So devastating that the last of humanity presumably is held up on a space station called the Ark. Now, the original plan was after 100 years, those humans from the Ark will go back down to Earth to see if it's habitable, because presumably, I guess all the radiation will be gone by then. However, they had to start a little early because they are running out of good oxygen on the Ark space station. Now, living on the Ark, in which oxygen is such a precious resource, and there's not really that much time for major advancements in technology when the main focus is just strictly survival. Rules are very strict. Rules and laws. And if you break any of these laws, you'll get executed. Simple as that. They execute you by spacing you, putting you out to space. They call it floating on this show, which I find a little annoying. I like spaced better. The only way you wouldn't be ejected into space is if you're underage. You're under the age of 18, in which that case, they'll just put you into a holding cell. Well, during this time, they've accumulated a lot of young people in those holding cells. And when desperate times call for desperate measures, they decide to take all those kids, which happens to amount to 100 of them, put inside a transport and send them down to Earth with hopes that they'll live, forcing them to be guinea pigs. Sounds pretty cruel, but obviously they survive, otherwise there'd be no show. So while the kids are waiting to see if their fellow humans on the Ark will ever come down to help them out, they gotta work on their own. They gotta put up their own makeshift community, learn how to survive together, especially since when they get down there, turns out they're not the only humans on planet Earth. Some have survived. And that's pretty much the 100. Now, who are the principal players in this show? Well, we'll start with the main character, Clarke Griffin, played by Eliza Taylor. She's kind of like the Jack Shephard on this show, in that she is the closest thing these kids have to a doctor. And the reason being is because her mother was a doctor, played by Paige Turco, Dr. Abby Griffin. So, presumably, she learned a lot of stuff from her mother. Therefore, she's able to bandage a bunch of kids up, help them with their illness, stuff like that. In a survival situation, if you are a healer, that puts you kind of into a de facto position of leadership. She's not the only leader, though. Enter Bellamy, played by Bob Morley. Now, Bellamy's a bit more rebellious. He doesn't really want the Ark humans to come down. He just rather the Ark people stay up there and leave the kids alone. Leave them to start their own society and not have those oppressive humans up there. Yeah, there's a little bit of a class disparity on this station. We'll get to that in a little bit. The reason why he's so disgruntled about this is because of his sister, Octavia, played by Marie Avgeropoulos. That's a little difficult to pronounce. Octavia was illegally born. See, if you got a lot of people breathing the same oxygen that may run out, you're gonna have some Chinese-style population laws, and unfortunately, that means no siblings. Well, he had a sibling, his mother got pregnant, and had a daughter, and for the darndest time, Bellamy has done whatever he could, as well as his mother, but Bellamy took on the brunt of the responsibility for most of his childhood to keep Octavia hidden. But eventually he couldn't keep that up forever. His mother was floated into space, and his sister was put into a holding cell for the darndest time. That's why she's on the planet. He managed to get a seat on the transport somehow. I say somehow because it's kind of a mystery that gets revealed over the course of this season, so I won't spoil it for you. Other characters include Jasper Jordan, who's kind of like the geek guy. He's played by Devon Bostick. His good friend Monty Green, played by Christopher Larkin, who share similar interests. And then finally, we have two of the leadership. We have Marcus Kane, played by Henry Ian Cusick, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Ark Society. You think he's a villain at first because he has the biggest doubt that the kids are going to survive. However, he's not a total bad guy. There are reasons to sympathize, and you end up rooting for him in the end. And then there's Isaiah Washington, who plays Chancellor Thelonious Jaha. Yes, he is the head honcho. A lot of people don't like him because he's usually the one that oversees the executions that take place. He doesn't like to do them. I mean, what nice, sane leader would love to see their fellow citizens executed, no matter how small the crime? But he has to deal with that, and he has to live with that. And as a result, a lot of people hate him. A lot of sort of the lower people that aren't part of the main leadership, that are more of the labor force on the Ark, don't really like him. And that gets reflected with the 100 Children. There are some that just do not like Chancellor Jaha, and they take issue with the children of the leadership. Now, when I first heard of this series, I thought, oh, it's just another CW show. Maybe they're trying to get some of that Hunger Games trendy money. And it looks so expensive, actually. It looks so expensive and ambitious. I thought, this show's not going to last. But it did. They kept it on for another season. They have it for a third season. And not to mention, it just looked very interesting. The advertisements I saw made it look pretty cool, made it look kind of ballsy. Some of the special effects I saw in the trailers looked pretty good for television, so I figured, all right, I'll give this a shot. And you know what? I really enjoy this show. I think CW's got a hit on their hands. I kind of wish more people watched it because I knew it's not their best in the ratings, even for CW standards. If I had to describe this show in one single sentence, I would say it's Battlestar Galactica meets Lost. Lost, I personally like that show just because I enjoyed binging all the way through that, even though it is completely ridiculous, but it has the same idea. A bunch of stranded survivors on an unfamiliar place. They have to learn to survive together, and there's some mystery about. I hope that the mystery doesn't get silly and ludicrous on the 100 as it did with Lost. And Battlestar Galactica, which is a show anybody that likes science fiction and drama really should like. I mean, by God, that was a great show. And no, I'm not saying it's similar to Battlestar Galactica because this show actually shares two of the cast members, but I found that a little charming. But I'm saying it's a science fiction show that is dark, it's dystopian, it has the class warfare drama going on, but it also has the same intensity and the serialized format, and the same amount of balls, too. Watching through one season of the show, which is only 13 episodes long, I could tell that, this show was pretty ballsy. It's focusing more on the story and the world and less about retaining character contracts or whatever. So if you like science fiction with good science fiction effects, you like survival drama, you like seeing younger actors, as well as perilous situations, bloodshed, fighting, even some explosions, The 100 might be your cup of tea. You probably would enjoy it. Definitely looks better production quality than many shows that air on the Sci-Fi Channel, I'll tell you that much. Oh, I'm sorry, it's sci-fi because they don't spell it correctly. So if any of this sounds appealing to you, you should check out The 100 Season 1, which is available on Netflix, and I'm sure they have it on Blu-ray and DVD as well. I'll get back to you when Season 2 of The 100 comes to Netflix, give you my take on that, and I'll be ready for Season 3, hopefully, assuming that Season 2 is to my liking enough that I want to watch Season 3. I don't know. I gotta remember Arrow. Man, that really disappointed me. So, that's my review of The 100, Season 1. Yes, it's pronounced 100. There's no 1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.